Hello, 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 everybody. My name is Star Freudenberg, also known as the Medical Mindset Coach and the host of this podcast. And welcome to today's episode. So the topic of today that I want to discuss is to talk about a subject that people are aware of and use all the time, but not necessarily can tangibly be seen. And as a result of that, people ignore and sort of misunderstand the impact and influence it has on the body and also the mind and the mood and your overall health. And this is something called EMFs. Also stands for the long word called electromagnetic frequencies. So a lot of the people conventionally understand physical health, physical well-being, but sort of in today's new age and era, people are starting to actually understand what about mental health. But what people are yet to necessarily come to terms with and also appreciate is what about your energetic health, your energetic hygiene. And unfortunately, even though we are so happy to have all of the technological advancements of everything at your doorstep, having your phone, which seems to be an extension of your arm these days, computers, iPads, watches, even these fitness watches, Apple watches, speakers, digital alarm clocks, Siri, Alexa, all of these speakers, and even now houses are ending up to be kitted out with, just a clap of your hands can turn off the lights, everything's electronically controlled. And as great as that is, and I do think it's really, really great, people are not appreciating that the signals that these things are giving off are actually influencing our energetic being, our energetic body. And this is actually causing a negative impact. And of course, one really, really most important example is internet, Wi-Fi. And as a result of this, people are going, yeah, my life is so much easier, but people not understanding the impact on the health, or on their health or their family's health or people around them. Because with all of this technological advancement comes a lot of negative consequences. So, another big theme is the recent rollout of 5G masts everywhere. There's been a linked statistic to show like a lot of more illnesses, deaths, cancers, memory problems, neurological issues that arise, heart problems, many, many other conditions. But I'm just giving a couple of examples. And people think like, oh, I don't understand why, he was so well, or, my kid just got sick overnight, or all of these things. But people not thinking, actually, the problem or the cause is all of this electronics that are around us. And I'd like to point this out today because hopefully I can create some form of awareness on this so you can start to become more conscious. And a few tips and tricks on how to actually avoid these things where possible. But yes, the most common one that does come up is Wi-Fi. So some people can actually use the old school Ethernet cables that can plug into your systems, whether it's a laptop or a PC or a Mac. You can do that and plug that in. So then even that you are working with the internet, it's going through a cable rather than doing a Wi-Fi. That's creating this radioactive sort of energetic frequency that has a radius, that can go up to your house. A lot of people buying boosters to get the internet all over the house. And what I suggest sometimes is actually, okay, you don't use it at night, so switch it off. So at least you can give your body a break, because if, we talk about the average hour, number of hours a person sleeps, it might be 6 hours to 8 hours. And if you can even give your body a bit of break from that, that will even add, maybe a couple of years onto your life, or maybe add to preventing you from potentially getting, an illness or a disease that's really quite common as a result of these EMFs. Another very, very big common one is microwaves. So I'm not a fan of microwaves at all. And they say, if a cockroach can survive being cooked in a microwave, then you should know. And also they've been able to survive back in the war from radiation and the bombings, and the impact from that. It shows you that they've obviously got something in them that, okay, is not necessarily good or good defensive mechanism, but that doesn't necessarily translate to humans. So people think to themselves, okay, well, I've been using a microwave my whole life, or I have da-da-da-da-da-da, and I'm still fine. But I always try to tell people, if we had to project what your mortality rate is, the average person ideally should live to 100, but that's not always the case. It's usually about 10 years less than that. But, if you had to actually appreciate the consequences of your actions and get shown, if we had this kind of technology that goes, for every decision you make today, that takes off a day of your life, or 5 days or 10 days. And, we can even relate this to taking drugs or alcohol or smoking, the 3 common, or even let's add sugar, the 4 most common factors that do take away from someone's life. Would you make decisions differently? So yes, microwaves these days are a really easy get out of jail free substitute to be able to go, I'll just shove it in the microwave. But if you're eating more microwave meals, whether you're cooking things in there or heating things up or reheating things, this is having a negative impact because this is destroying the quality of the food. So you might argue, yes, physically the food is fine, but we're talking about the energetic essence of the food, the different aspects of why we need to absorb the energy of food. They even say, interestingly, that there's a group of people out there called breatharians, that people just survive on air. And then I read this a long time ago that said that, whether you want to believe it or not, is that it's become a programming for people to believe that eating foods is how we get our energy. But actually, the true nature of it is not that at all. People could actually survive without food. And it's just about to understand about how you can absorb the energy of things. And a very common example is, okay, go into the sun. If you gaze into the sun, into your eyes or on the sun absorption into your body, you get energy from that. And that kind of can explain why during the summer there's a lot more energy exertion from people in all forms of ways, maybe exercise, maybe going out, maybe feeling inspired to do more things. Whereas when there's a lack of sun, we go into this hibernation state in the winter, like a bear, because that's the time to stay. So just ideally, if possible, to avoid a microwave, please do so. So whether you can bake it, you can, fry it, you can grill it, you can steam it, just any way and form possible, try and avoid using the microwave. It's just become a habit that people revert to because it's easier, but it's not necessarily better for your health. Right. Another common example is the computer. We're all guilty of it, absolutely. Even myself. This is how I'm recording this podcast, using a computer and some electronics. But the idea is, as soon as I can, I switch it off. And again, with the internet, I'm using it with an Ethernet cable rather than Wi-Fi. A common other example is how to best utilize computers. So most people, when they're going to work, they have laptops now. So I highly, highly recommend that you never work with your charger plugged in, because basically you are then becoming basically a conduit, a vessel to absorb all of the energy from the power supply. Whether, at your work there's a massive supply or at home there's a massive supply, and then you become quite statically charged with electricity, which is very harmful for the energetic body. And then people don't think, oh, I need to go deactivate this, which would be techniques such as grounding. And what does that mean? Grounding means going outside and connecting with nature. And you might have heard this common thing about, just putting your bare feet on grass and then absorbing the energy and neutralizing that into your body. Might even be another example of going into the sea and swimming, or just walking with your feet on the stones or the sand. Again, connecting with a form of earth to be able to neutralize and absorb that static electricity of yours. And even if you want to, you could even be sort of those people, metaphorically, they always talk about those tree huggers. You could go to trees, touch nature, touch plants, touch organisms that are living, that are connected with Mother Earth, that can be able to absorb that energy. But again, we're living in this day and age where we're living in a concrete jungle, we're working in the city all the time, and there's a big lack of nature, and especially lack of time, because people are working very extensive hours that prohibit them from living a well-balanced lifestyle. So these are things you need to proactively do in order to ensure, a healthier lifestyle and balance. Because, when people are in their youth, they're pushing themselves, and they can, because they have the age and the energy in their favor. But when they start to hit sort of their peak, and then following that, you don't have that sort of energy and adaptability to be able to flex to that. And then you really have to start maintaining and working at it. And, this might hit where someone might have a midlife crisis. And then they think, okay, I don't know what to do because what I've been doing is not working anymore. And it's because, yes, you've been pushing yourself at 1,000 kilometers per hour, which is unhealthy and unbalanced, but you didn't listen to the signs. You didn't have awareness about it, but now is the time to start. But ideally, we want to start from when we're really, really young to teach and incorporate really good patterns, behaviors, and habits, because then you won't have to take a lot of time trying to reverse out negative behaviors and patterns that you learn. The typical example I'm thinking of is like, okay, when you learn a bad habit, when you're learning a musical instrument, it's just default programming that you just don't want to have when you're there. So, if you have to work through these things, try, incorporate your whole family into it, and especially the younger, the better, to avoid that, because we are in a technological era where everything is near us, by us, and we can't really avoid it. So we have to make it work as much as possible in our favor, with a sense of balance. And then moving from computers, we can work, we'll move on to iPads. This is even more of a difficulty because this is always near us, by us. So I always say, like, with a computer, please shut it down. Don't put it on sleep. Don't leave it on idle, because it's radiating more electricity and EMFs while you sleep, polluting the house. And I always think, like, okay, if you could actually see this energy bubble that it creates, or this toxic energy bubble it creates, I think your mindset would be a little bit different. So, incorporate visualizations, thinking about how much is this emitting off that could create problems. There's a lot of technology out there that can actually pick this up, EMF readers, and so you can get like a tangible feeling and evidence and understanding of how this is actually affecting your energy body. And then just coming back to the iPad, the problem is people now are not able to really sleep at night because they're so wired and so influenced by even the lighting of the computers. So we call this blue light exposure. And you just want to kind of dial it down, reduce the screen brightness. That would be on your phone, on your computer, your iPad, or you can even get what I have, these blue light covers. So you can get, I know on Androids, you can get just an easy function on the phone itself to click on a blue light. That would obviously change the coloration of the screen, and that will help you with your eyes and protect your eyes and give, healthier eyes. Because a lot of people who stare at the computer or any form of electronic for too long, for extended period of time, will actually start to experience, their eyes are actually starting to get weaker, and then also sleeping wise, called your circadian rhythms, also gets affected, because then you got too much exposure of this light when it should be dark, that then you can't switch off when you actually go to bed, and then sleeping problems happen, which has a knock-on effect, because if you don't sleep properly, you're not going to be recovering or repairing properly, and that then affects your health overall. And again, when we compound that over a period of time, that's when disease or illness develops, or ill health develops, because of such simple little things that you probably didn't even know about. But going back again to the iPad, you think, okay, well, people always have this on them, they're on them next to the bed or on the bed and they sleep by it. So I always advise to have a completely electronic free bedroom, where possible, all plugs in the house switched off that are not being in use. Because this again is emitting things that shouldn't be there. And you want to keep your bedroom as practical as possible, because I know some people, for example, in London live in a one bed and that's their entire house. But then try keep it as far as possible. Keep your cell phone nearby the door. Get a different clock that you could see, that you don't need to have your cell phone in the room. Put your phone on autopilot to try and shut off some of the signals. Because if you switch your phone off, of course, the alarm can't go off. So you need to be as practical as possible, but don't fall asleep with electronics on you, near you, under your pillow, because you're just poisoning yourself. And the same thing at the moment, a lot of people think okay, to instill different patterns in their mind, with affirmations or learning a language while you sleep. Everyone thinks yes, I'm benefiting myself because I'm training my brain and my mind to learn new things. But equally, you're forgetting that you're poisoning yourself because you're having this consistent electronic wave or frequency that's just slowly poisoning your body, just like a little chisel at a time, just knock, 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 knock. So you'll find it's better for your health to actually avoid that in its entirety. And that even brings me to, these Apple Watches or fitness watches. Everyone's so fixated, I've done my 10,000 steps a day, da 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 da. But again, you have this constant, and even the Aura rings as well, which is just the ring version of the watch that can measure your heart rate variability or your heartbeat or your sleeping patterns, etc. But these things are just different forms of poison. If you've got this constant thing on you intercepting in your energetic programming or your energetic energy field, we call it your bioenergy field, it's just making you sick. And again, it's a distraction that you're getting more focused on. Okay, I can track myself and be more analytical minded, but it's removing the ability to be intuitive and connected and open, because again, you're just creating this barrier and this blockage towards your overall health, and of which an energetic aspect is one of the most important, if not the most important, in my opinion, because it has a knock-on effect to the emotional, spiritual, and the physical. Right. And the same thing, we can go to the next device, is, for example, radios. I mean, it's quite old school now, but it is still in the cars. Even cars now are electric in nature as well. So depending on the long distance that you're driving, being in that, you're sort of incubated in an electric field for a long period of time, exposure to radios as well. And also depending on the country, it can even be exposure to nuclear radiation, which at this point in time doesn't seem like a far-fetched idea, because sort of World War III is on our doorsteps, unfortunately. So, there are just a couple of things to bear in mind. And if we go back to the blue light exposure, there are many different tips and tricks. So I have these specific filters for blue light that I've bought, that I've been able to stick on my iPad, my phone, my PC or computer, Mac, whoever, depending on what device you're using. But there's different ways, either you can use dimming, red lights or night lights. Try and keep lighting as low as possible, because that will help improve your sleeping patterns. Avoid looking at bright screens beginning 2 to 3 hours before bed as well, because like I said, just again influences your sleeping patterns. And if you work at a night shift or use a tablet or electronic device at night, consider wearing something called blue blocking glasses or blue light glasses or Blu-ray glasses. These are typical glasses that gamers wear, but this can be applied, or it's transposable over different fields. If you're an accountant or a lawyer or a graphic designer or anything of the sorts that you have to do fixed concentration on the computer, get these glasses, because it just protects your eyes. I can't tell you how many people I know that when I studied accounting and started working at Deloitte specifically, within the first year, because everyone had not been on a computer so much, I think almost 60 to 70% of people got glasses. So it's really incredible to observe the deterioration of the eyes as a result of this. And also just a side thing is, if you do notice your eyes are really, really dry because of staring so long, and you might be in, for example, the offices that's got a lot of aircon or heating during the winters, that dries out the eyes, just get a couple of eye drops for hydration. Can set an alarm maybe every 2-3 hours just to rehydrate your eyes, because again, it's just these little tips and tricks that you can do today consistently that will improve your overall health over the long term. And again, just going back to the analogy, just thinking about how many days you're adding on rather than taking off of your life and your health. Because, when you get sort of to the end or near end stages of your life, you don't want to be successfully getting there, but getting there unwell or not with good health or having to struggle. Just doesn't make sense, does it? So just a few other tips and tricks. Oh yes, and I just want to also remind you, there's also, exposure when you're traveling. There's a lot of radiation when you fly, especially when you're going through the security gates, going through those scanning machines. So that's also exposure. And then maybe even being in the hospital. So if you're like a doctor or a nurse or a radiologist, a lot of exposure from the MRI scans as well. So there's a lot of different ways that you can get exposed, but then what are you doing appropriately after to heal yourself? So here are a couple of tips and tricks that I will suggest, besides for what I've already said. And I may repeat myself, but just here is my bullet point list. So EMFs are electromagnetic frequencies and include exposures to power cables, radio transmitters, Wi-Fi, and X-rays. So avoid keeping any electrical items in your bedroom area, especially as the sleeping area where you spend up to 8 hours at a time. It's one of the most important places to keep clean. So, for example, radio clocks emit electric and magnetic fields. If you're particularly electrosensitive, switch off everything at the fuse box for your bedroom. And again, a lot of people suffer from headaches or migraines. This EMF exposure could be one of them, right? Avoid metal bed bases and metal spring mattresses, as they can magnetize ambient EMFs and can easily become magnetized. Ensure when sleeping your head is not near large amounts of wiring or fuse boxes inside the wall of your bed, or make sure your bed is against or on the other side of the wall rather, so you don't sort of get this sort of indirect charge. Consider buying an EMF tester, like I've already suggested, if you're serious about checking EMFs inside and outside your home. Cordless phones have been found to be dangerous, or as dangerous as cell phones, so get rid of your cordless phone, switch to phones with cords. Especially ensure you are not keeping a cordless phone base at your bedroom at night or in your bedroom at night. Switch to a wired broadband, or at least switch off your Wi-Fi at night. You can use timers that Christmas lights work from to do this automatically. And then check your cell phone masts in your house. Generally living within 500 meters is considered undesirable. So see the recommendations for house shielding if you live near one. Smart meters measure electricity, gas, and water usage and send the information wirelessly direct to the utility company. So if you have a wireless smart meter, call your utility company and request a safe analog meter. So a lot of the houses, again, are trying to shift towards more smart meter reading. Rather say no, because it's going to add to your energetic health. Be aware, house alarm systems, some music systems, games consoles, baby monitors also use Wi-Fi, so switch back to wired versions where possible. If you have dealt with all international sources of EMFs but are concerned about your neighbor's Wi-Fi, cell phone towers, power lines, consider using EMF shielding wall paint, which contains EMF absorbing carbon molecules. And you can also buy window nets, which contain silver plated coppers to block EMFs as well. Clothing that shields radiation is also possible and available with silver woven into the cotton. So this may be a particular interest for pregnant women, for example. Hair dryers emit high levels of electrical fields, so avoid using it at night and preferably use the wall-mounted versions. Alongside cordless phone decks, cell phone and computer chargers are some of the highest EMF emitting devices in our home. So keep 3 to 5 meters away from them when possible. And then check if you're within 500 meters of a power line, and ideally avoid living near them. And if you already live nearby, see some of the house shielding recommendations from a different link in the website, which is called www.antennasearch.com for if you're based in America. But if it's the UK, it's called sitefinder.ofcom.org.uk. So there's lots of different tips and tricks around that. And one last thing to add is there's 2 different ways additionally to protect yourself. So if you have and it is in terms of affordability or can afford it, you can get these different types of crystals that can block out EMF. So, you can place them, for example, in your bedroom or around your office, because especially with COVID, a lot of offices have arisen in homes now. Or you can get necklaces that have EMF protection within them that can help shield you. And one last tip and trick is just to ensure that when you are with your electronics, walking portable or mobile, just try not keep them on you, like physically in your pockets or in your back pocket. Just maybe keep them in a handbag or next to you on a desk or something like that, because again, you don't want to basically become this conductor to absorb all of these EMFs. You want to just, again, try and keep it as far as possible. So again, if I refer back to the example, people sleep with their phones under their pillow. A lot of studies and statistics have shown a lot of cancer or carcinogenic effects or ill health have arisen, in the upper aspect of the body, so head, neurological issues, whereas people always carrying their phones in their pockets, have been linked to like testicular cancer or reproductive organs have been affected, and it's predominantly carcinogenic, so mostly cancerous, but a lot of different issues. So where you predominantly keep your electronic will likely be where your disease or illness might originate. So, try keep things as far as possible. Yes. And last but not least is just be aware in your kitchen. Kitchens are, I would say, the most exposed area for where electronics are. You might have microwaves, you have your fridge, you have your stove, your hob, your cooker, kettles and all of that. So the best thing I can suggest is just switch off everything at the plugs except for the fridge where possible. And if you can, I have a couple of like different EMF blockers or busters that I keep around the kitchen just to try and absorb some of the EMFs. Where possible, don't keep your water, if you have a filter for water, near or inside the kitchen, because again, that can be influenced through the molecular structure of the water. And I think that will be enough for today. But it is quite a mouthful in terms of today's session, because this might be a couple of things that you haven't thought about before or had awareness about. But there are different ways and methods to be able to protect yourself. Drastic measures do not need to be had at the moment, because some people are like, oh my God, I have to definitely move from my house, have to, think about something different. But there's small little things that you can do every day. But sort of as the expression goes, everything starts at home. Easiest one will be try and get electronics out your bedroom. Most people keep their TVs in there. They sleep with their phones right next to them. But try to keep it at a distance or just outside the door if practical. And then try see, because you might start to notice if you have health issues that all of a sudden you're going to start sleeping better. All of a sudden you'll have less headaches. All of a sudden you'll think more clearly. You'll be able to have more energy as well. And it's all these just small things, one step at a time, because I don't believe in instant gratification in terms of looking after your health. It's a lifestyle, it takes your life to be able to achieve it. So it just comes through repetitive actions with consistency. And then you'll be able to see the benefits of your work, but every day, just a little bit at a time. But there's so many things that we need to do to look after ourselves in this modern day and age as a result of technological advancement. Again, if I compare myself to caveman stage, people think like, wow, we're so much better off. In so many ways we are, yes, but in so many other ways we are also not, where it might actually be better to be the caveman because health would be different in that day and age, and maybe in the sense more connected. So, a lot of people who are or may potentially be open to, spiritual aspects or their divine being within themselves, a lot of this energetic influence or negativity is hindering that progress or that process. If you're someone who's quite intuitive or someone who feels a lot, and we call this empathy, feeling people's feelings, that can be blocked off. So when you start to keep these things more at bay or at distance, you will find that you might become more open, understanding people better, feeling things better, calling situations or predicting things more, just intuiting or becoming more creative and inspired. And that can be across all different modalities, whether it's might be singing, music, writing, creating, technology, doesn't matter. But you'll find that when you start improving your bioenergy field health or your energetic health, then again, this has a positive knock-on effect to create more benefits in other ways that you are healthy. So anyway, I'll leave it on that note. So thank you for listening today. I hope you have taken something, even if it's one thing more. Hopefully this will help you going forward. So sending you lots of love, lots of light, and a positive day going forward, because we are starting to get the sun coming back in the UK, and it's a really, really good time for everyone around here. Of course, not in other aspects in Europe, but we just need to keep smiling, and it's a lot easier when the sun is shining. So I'm wishing you all a great day wherever you are in the world, and I'll keep you posted with the next episode next week. Have a good day. Bye.